Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well today. I realize it might not be morning where you are, but we're enjoying a beautiful, if extremely hot, morning here at the time I'm recording this. I've got a student coming shortly, but I wanted to try and do this session on chromatic triplets from the Arban book. In my edition, this is page 90. And this is a very typical kind of exercise that an aspiring cornet player would want to practice. I'll be honest with you, I haven't practiced these in as long as I can remember, but I'm going to warm up on them for you this morning and hope that you get something out of the process. I'm going to start with number 10 in this group, and I'm going to play it. Let's see here. Get my metronome going. Maybe it says 112 for the bottom tempo. So. Now obviously you can practice with a metronome and without a metronome. What I recommend is put the metronome on, play with it, turn it off. Have someone do this for you. Have them turn it off and you keep playing. And then on the beat, turn it back on. Or put the metronome on, play, walk out of the room, come back in, see if you're still with the metronome. Or have someone put a metronome on and you play with it until you find the groove. Then have them walk away with the metronome running, and then come back a while later and see if you're still with the metronome. If you are always with the metronome, you have what's called perfect rhythm. That's very rare. It's not something that most of us have, but it's certainly something to aspire to. So take that for what it's worth. These are just things to play around with, and I hope to offer you quite a few things to play around with in this particular session. Okay, so I'm just going to play a little bit at that tempo. I'm trying to remember the tempo. I was a little bit fast in my flow on it. You have to learn how to trust your sense of the tempo. But because the metronome is annoying, I'm going to play it without the metronome first. So this is my warm-up today. And there are 1,000 things going through my mind. I hope that's happening with you too. In other words, there's a lot of activity. What we have to do is kind of narrow it down to one thing or a very few things at a time. Now you can switch channels as much as you want, but it's good to get settled in on one thing. So if my blower is not feeling particularly good, I might do some breathing exercises. You know, I might go back to the mouthpiece blowing exercise. If you haven't seen that, go ahead and check that out. I have 3 episodes on messing around with simply blowing air through the mouthpiece. Now that might be a little bit too violent to start out, although I find it quite stimulating. The main thing I want is easy flow. Oh, I'm feeling a little stiff. I did some deadlift yesterday, and I have a little bit of I can feel in my rib cage muscles that I strained something just a little bit. So I'm not going to be able to breathe naturally. So mainly I'm trying to loosen up right now. And as I try and take a full breath, ooh, that hurts a little bit. So now I know that I shouldn't be forcing anything right now. I need to just get loose and stretch and kind of let the body heal. Okay, what can we do with a chromatic triplet? Well, we can play it faster. We can play it slower. We can play it with different dynamics. We can play it with different note emphasis. We can play it with different articulation. We're going to take a look at each one of those today, and I want you to just think of these as kind of an addendum, variations, if you will. If you watched any of my episodes on Clark, I talk about variations in some of those episodes. And that's what I do all the time. So let's start with no variation. We're just going to try and play it smoothly. I'm going to do another one. See if this works. Number 13. that's probably more the speed that I would do it if I were warming up. Again, a million things going through my mind, but my main focus was play it even in terms of dynamics and even in terms of tone. And that's plenty to work on right there. That's plenty to work on. If you're having trouble with that at all, play it slower, relax, do the freeze frame technique that I mentioned previously, so you have time to listen to your body and listen to the sound in the room and see whether you're at the balance point. As we're moving, there's a tendency to try and hold on for control. In the extreme case, I call it the white knuckle effect, which means you have that sense of lack of control. Of course, I'm old, so I've been driving for quite a while, and I had one experience where I was out on a fine winter morning. It had been very warm the day before, but very cold overnight. And it snowed a little bit, and I'm driving along the road, and all of a sudden, I hit a patch of glare ice, which was covered with snow. Looked like it was just snow, and the car just went 360. That's the feeling. The natural reaction is you grab the steering wheel really tightly, and that actually doesn't help at all. What you should do is, as many of you know, steer into the direction of the skid. And you have to train yourself to do that. In a similar way, we have to train ourselves to respond appropriately when we feel tension. Instead of just fighting and feeding the tension, learn what we can do strategically, what we can do in terms of in the moment making a correction, and train that in. So a very simple thing to watch is, are you allowing the air to flow freely? Are your throat and tongue relaxed? Are you starting to clench with the embouchure, or squeeze with the lips, especially inside the mouthpiece as you go higher, and you're starting to force the vibration a little bit? It's very likely that no matter what level of trumpet player you are, you're doing that to some degree. So this is the refinement, and that's the main thing you want to work on. Now, of course, you could work on that for hours. So what I like to do is really, really concentrate. It's extreme concentration, which is basically watching with full attention. The world disappears, and you become hyper-focused, as it were, in this moment and what's going on one thing. That's very powerful. When you do that, you can't see or hear anything else. People who have attention deficit issues know what that is, because it's natural for them to do that. They have that ability. The rest of us have to learn the ability, and it's quite challenging. So I'm going to try some other things. I don't want this to go too long because I am limited by the time, but I'm going to add something that's very different that you may or may not have tried. I'm going to swing it. Now, what does that mean? Well, I played it evenly. Let me do another one here. When I'm playing evenly, I'm working for the smoothest, continuous sound between the notes and through the notes and into the next notes. And that's plenty to work on right there. It might take you a while to get to that point where it's totally free. When it's totally free, start emphasizing. For example, I'm going to emphasize the beats. It's easy. That's a breath emphasis. So I'm going, I'm just tossing the air. When you do that, you might feel yourself kicking or clenching in the breathing muscles. You want to get rid of that. It should be a feeling of continuous blow with just tossing the air as you're continuously blowing. Now, that's a little specific. It's very specific. These are the kind of things you want to be attentive to when you're practicing. You can't do all this at once. You have to solve these issues, improve these qualities at the base level. And that's what playing simple exercises like this gives you an opportunity to do. So I bumped the first note a little bit. So I'm kind of sotto voce as a whisper. That's a great exercise. It's very similar to what we're doing here on the trumpet, but it's harder to do it on the trumpet. The trumpet's weird because it's very much like singing, but we never sing with our mouths closed. So it's a little like humming, but when we're humming, the air is leaking out of our nose. So it's very odd to play the trumpet, and this is why many of us have a lot of trouble doing it. So what's another thing I could do? Well, let me bump the second one. Or the third one. Now, you may find that difficult. If you find it difficult, slow it down. Watch your body. If you're pushing and pulling, if you're tight, if you're clenching at all, then don't do it. Go back to the voice. Or just do it with the air. Whatever's the easiest, whatever gives you success and the ability to do it, do that first. And then don't jump too quickly to try and doing what I just did, unless you're good at it, and then do it fast. So this is all about kind of raising the bar of difficulty. That's a basic principle of practice, but not too fast. Get comfortable until it's easy, and maybe even your mind starts to wander, you start thinking about something else. That means, assuming that what's coming out of the horn is excellent, that means you know it so well that you don't have to think about it anymore. You don't have to control it consciously, and that's exactly where we're trying to get with these things. Okay, what's another thing I could do? Simple dynamic change. And this change is marked into these exercises, at least in my edition. Starts mezzo piano with a crescendo, then down to piano, poco crescendo, up to mezzo forte, and then back down. That's beautiful. That's a musical kind of overarching large idea of what's happening with the dynamics all the way through the whole piece. So that's a great thing to do. And just following what's on the page. But a simpler thing to do would be just do it vocally, which means I'm going to start at mezzo piano with as resonant a sound as I can produce. Not as much focus, as much ring, as much projection, as much shape, roundness to the sound as you can get. Try and do that on the trumpet. So you heard I made a gradual crescendo all the way through. As I go up, I'm crescendoing. As I come down, I'm decrescendoing. So that's a very simple way to apply this dynamic stuff. Not only is it dynamics, but it can be color too. And those two very often go together. We think of just louder or softer. That's pretty mechanical. When we do it with our voice, I might be singing with a warmer tone. Or a more focused tone. See, the dynamic and the color are two different things, but they do naturally go together. Generally, when we play higher, the sound becomes more intensely focused, or it should. We hope that it does, and concentrated, and the sound can become more brilliant, which is one of the great things about the voice of the trumpet. But we need to be able to control it. So playing this with a warm sound is a variation. Playing it with a very, very focused, intense sound is a variation. You see, there are almost endless things that you can do with this exercise. The key is it's kind of like going to the Asian restaurant. You have a lot of choices, and as they say in New York, pick one from column A, two from column B, which means, you have like hundreds of choices, and you're putting together a complete meal. This is exactly what we're doing with these variations. So take this to heart. This is not, make notes for yourself. Say, okay, I'm going to try this today. Then do something different another day. Or build on what you did the day before. This is good practice. I hope you are picking up on it. Now I'm going to mention another thing, which is a variation, and this applies to all the drills and scales that you play, just as all the variations do. And this is called, I call it speed play. So let's say you're trying to go fast. So let's see, I'm going to try different ones, see if my fingers are awake yet. They don't quite feel awake. They feel kind of stiff, maybe from that deadlifting yesterday. Yeah, hard to get everything working together. So this is starting on A. This is number 16. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play 3 beats at a slower tempo. Let's see. So I'm going to play at that tempo, which is 112, or I could go way slower than that. That's even more highly recommended. And then I'm going to go up to the top tempo, Let's see if I can do that. Huh. Okay, here we go. So it's 169 is what he recommends for the top. Okay, so here's how it works. A little sloppy. So whenever you make, as Clark said, the slightest mistake, stop. I would say stop, relax. He would say fix it. How do you do that? Slow it down. That time my fingers were a little stiff. As I said, I'm feeling that. I'm not feeling the dancing sensation today, which is unfortunate, but hopefully I'll get to it after my teaching. So you see, that is a great thing to do, and you can do it in all kinds of variations within itself. Do one beat, one quarter note beat fast, the other one slow. So you go da-da-da-dee-da-dee, da-ga-da-dee, da-ga-da-dee. You can do it in one group of 7 slow, and then the next group of 7 fast. And it's totally up to you. This is like deciding how much weight to put on the bar when you're lifting. Be reasonable. Make sure you warm up, which I probably did not do enough yesterday. And don't lift more than you can. Come back to the place where you can maintain form. In trumpet playing, that's what it's all about. Maintaining your balance between the breath and the face, the proper coordination with the lips and the tongue and the fingers. It's all about form. So when you break form and you're getting that sloppiness, fix it. Okay, now the final variation, I would say final because, well, we're going really long here. So this is articulation. You know, I've mentioned this before, but let me see if I can find another exercise to do here. Yeah, maybe this one will be good. It goes a little higher. I'll see what I can do. This is number 18. So I'm going to do it with single tongue. Ooh, it feels really stiff. What can I do? I can do it slower, or I can do it more clearly pronounced. That's probably how Arban would do it, detached, separated, staccato. Because when the notes are staccato, you're actually stopping the air with the tongue. And when you do that, you can feel how much thrust is in the air stream that you're creating. And when you can feel that, you can, if you're paying attention, you can get a sense of whether you're overblowing and just trying to push the air too hard, or whether you're supporting enough or not enough. So it's a lot of great players that I know use this as part of their setting up. When you use the tongue, if you're jamming air against the tongue, you're trying to push too much air through. If the tongue is, if you lose the snap and the ease of flow in the airstream, then you're probably not following through, you're not supporting enough. So this is self-analysis. Now my throat's a little tight now. What am I going to do? Maybe I'll practice at the octave lower. Starting to relax a little bit because I have more flow. As long as I can maintain that feeling of flow, maintain that feeling of sighing the air instead of squeezing the air, I'm good. If I can't maintain that, I'm going to go lower. Now let's say I've gotten loosened up to the point where the single tongue is starting to feel good. And that could take a long time, or it could happen almost immediately, depending on the day, on what's going on. So then I'm going to start to go to multiple tongue. But before I do that, I'm going to do, for me, what I do is K articulation. So let's see. I'm going to do something a little bit more difficult, more range. So I'm going to go to number 23. So this is much faster, but I'm not going to play it fast. You see what I'm doing? I'm mixing a separated and connected. That's the basis of your articulation practice. Is you need to be able to go slurred, sustained articulation, separated articulation with the same ease. If you don't have that, work on the skills. Slow things down. Work on just one note with the articulation until it starts to until you start to be able to see it, to hear it, what you want coming out of the horn, to taste what it is physically that you're doing, to get a picture in your mind of what's going on. Okay, now let's say my K is doing pretty well, and then I'm going to start maybe going faster. So slur, legato. Allowing the air to get past the tongue as easily as possible with good pronunciation, not extremely quick tongue. And then now my throat's tight. Are the lips remaining supple and free to vibrate? Is my air free to flow? If I don't have those things, then I can't play the instrument, and it's then I'm fighting. And so avoid fighting. As one of my fine colleagues in Boston says, don't fight the trumpet. If you do, the trumpet will win. You will lose. And many of us spend our whole lives fighting the trumpet. Then what do? Well, if you're an advanced player, I like to mix up T and K articulation and single tongue. So I might randomly do a K. So I might go ta 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 ta. So I'm going ta ta ta. I put a K in the middle of the triplet, and I'm doing single articulation, and every once in a while I throw a K in. This is just something to practice, but do it very diligently. Now, it might be too difficult to do something like that with a chromatic triplet at the same time. You see, you have to build something. So if I'm trying to do that on one of these exercises, I might be exceeding my capacity for maintaining good form. So then I'm just going to take one note. That's K in the middle. What your goal here is, by diligently refining and practicing, slow enough so that you can hear what's going on, you're making the K and the T sound as similar as possible. And most of you know that already. It's just that most of us don't do it. It takes a lot of work to get to that point. Now, the hardest thing to do is do odd groupings. You have triplets, da 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 da. When you do let's say you do a double tongue against those triplets. So now I'm going tucka 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 tucka, but I'm going tucka 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 tucka. Now I'm doing double tongue in a triplet pattern. This is extremely useful. So it's worthwhile practicing. Take my word for it. So I'm going to do another one, and this time I'm going to slur it for a while, and I'm going to go to a double tongue and a triple tongue pattern. That's ta ka ta. Ta ka ta ka ta ka ta ka ta ka ta ka ta. Let me try that again. Now you can probably hear that's making me a little tight. It's not working, so I'm going to bring it back down to, maybe I should just do it in the staff. So I'm going ta ka ta ka ta ka ta ka ta ka ta ka ta. Triplets with a double tongue pattern. Yeah, pretty tight. I hope that gave you an idea. You see, I'm conducting the groups. Taka, 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 but the 16ths stay exactly the same all the way through. Okay, I feel I probably strained your patience and maybe your mind today, but if you can take some notes and go back and apply maybe even one of these ideas, if you're not already doing it, to your practice, and build something, and make sure that above all you're maintaining the beauty of your voice and the physical enjoyment, the freedom of movement that you want to have as you're playing the trumpet. Don't force anything. Okay, with that word of advice, I will leave you to it and hope that you join me at some time in the future. Have a great day. Enjoy your practice. Bye-bye.